Long before European ships ever crowded the West African coast, the real struggle for power was already unfolding deep inland. Kingdoms rose, kingdoms fell, and between them stood ordinary people, caught in a widening circle of conflict that grew beyond control. Villages were burned to ash. Families were torn apart without warning. Entire communities vanished from the map. And in the shadows of these wars, something new began to take shape. A system of human capture and exchange that would stretch far beyond Africa's shores and reshape the world. This is the story of Oyo's northern sweep, and how power, rivalry, and survival became tied to one of history's darkest global networks. In the 18th century, the Oyo Empire stood as one of the most powerful forces in West Africa. Built on military strength, disciplined cavalry, and political control, Oyo commanded vast trade routes and influenced many surrounding regions. Its authority was not just military, it was economic and strategic. Tribute flowed inward, alliances were enforced, borders expanded. But with power came pressure, and with expansion came resistance. The empire could not stand still. It had to move. Beyond Oyo's core territories, the lands along the Niger River were fragmented. Dozens of communities, towns, and small kingdoms existed side by side, connected by trade, but divided by ambition. Alliances shifted constantly. Today's partner could become tomorrow's enemy. Disputes over land, trade routes, and political influence often escalated into raids and retaliations, and every conflict created something new: captives. What began as local disputes slowly fed a growing network of human exchange that extended far beyond the battlefield. At times, Oyo launched military campaigns northward to enforce control and secure its influence. These campaigns moved fast, cavalry sweeping across open savanna, overwhelming smaller settlements and rival forces. When the dust settled, entire communities were left broken. Some fled, others were taken. What once were villages became empty ground. What once were families became scattered across distant routes. And each victory added more people into a system that was no longer only about war, but about movement, trade, and survival. As conflict spread, a global demand began to reshape local realities. European traders along the coast sought labor for plantations across the Atlantic world. To meet that demand, inland conflicts and raids increasingly supplied captives into expanding trade networks. Weapons, goods, and wealth flowed inland. Captives flowed outward. This was no longer isolated warfare. It had become a connected system, driven by profit, power, and survival on all sides. A cycle had formed, and it was accelerating. Behind every captured person was a life interrupted without warning. A mother separated from her children. A farmer taken from his land. A child forced into a journey they could not understand. The marches were long. The conditions were harsh. Many never reached the coast. And those who did faced another passage across the ocean into an unknown world. Entire generations were lost to distance, displacement, and silence. What remained was grief, widespread, unrecorded, and deeply human. The story of Oyo's northern sweep is not simple. It is not a single cause or a single group. It is a chain of decisions, driven by power, fear, ambition, and global demand. It shows how local conflicts can become part of something far larger than themselves, and how systems of trade, once set in motion, can reshape entire regions for centuries. Understanding this history is not about assigning blame to one place or people. It is about recognizing how human systems, when driven by profit and conflict, can lose sight of humanity itself. The land remembers, even when stories fade. The villages are gone, The roots have changed, the empires have fallen, but the echoes remain, in cultures, in memory, in descendants scattered across continents. Oyo's northern sweep is not just history, it is a reminder of how power moves, how systems form, and how human lives become part of forces far larger than themselves. And perhaps most importantly, it is a warning that when ambition outruns humanity, history pays the price in generations.